The 2025 Royal Enfield Continental GT 535 is finally here, and it's a motorcycle that carries with it not just a machine but also a piece of heritage that appeals to riders who love the raw essence of motorcycling. This is not a bike that's trying to hide behind too much technology or an overwhelming number of features. Instead, it's a bike that puts you at the center of the ride, blending old-school café-copyright racer charm with the updated refinement that today's market expects. In this review, we'll be taking a close look at every detail of the Continental GT 535A, from its styling on the outside to the mechanics under the tank, its engine behavior, how it feels on the road, and whether it's worth the price tag in 2025. So settle in, because we're going deep into the character of this iconic machine. The very first impression of the Continental GT 535 is its stance. When you see it head-on, the front view carries that unmistakable café-copyright racer personality. A round halogen-style headlamp continues to keep the retro spirit alive, though in 2025 Royal Enfield has refined the detailing around it with cleaner housing and slightly sharper bezels. Unlike many modern machines that come packed with aggressive LED units, the Continental GT sticks to its roots with a design that feels timeless. The minimal front fender, the slightly exposed telescopic forks, and the classic twin-pod analog-digital meters all contribute to its simple, stripped-down look. You don't see flashy plastics or over-the-top graphics here. Instead, you get clean lines, an authentic presence, and a motorcycle that tells you exactly what it is. A modern retro café-copyright racer meant to capture the soul of 1960s motorcycling. Moving to the side profile is where this bike truly shines. The tank is a sculpted masterpiece, elongated, muscular, and narrow enough to grip with your knees, just the way café-copyright racers were intended to be ridden. The branding is subtle but bold, with the Royal Enfield badge engraved and the Continental GT 535 insignia sitting proudly on the side panels. The seat is a single-piece café-copyright racer-style unit, slightly humped at the rear, designed to lock the rider into position when leaning into corners. The rear set foot pegs and slightly clip-on style handlebars create that perfect café-copyright racer posture, aggressive yet not punishing. You get the feeling that this bike was designed for riders who appreciate a bit of nostalgia and are willing to lean into the art of motorcycling rather than simply commuting from A to B. At the back, the bike keeps the same philosophy alive via minimal, tight, and retro. A small, round tail lamp sits neatly above the simple rear fender, supported by twin rear shocks that add to the authenticity of the classic design. The indicators are basic, round units, further amplifying the throwback character. What stands out is how Royal Enfield has avoided clutter. There's no oversized grab rail, no unnecessary plastic extensions, just a clean rear profile that completes the silhouette of a café-copyright racer. The dual exhausts tuck in neatly along the frame, with a chrome finish that instantly evokes the memory of vintage British motorcycles, while still feeling contemporary enough to belong on today's roads. Of course, the heart of the Continental GT 535 is its engine, and this is where enthusiasts will have the most to talk about. The 535cc single-cylinder engine is air-cooled, just like in its original form, but has been tuned for smoother delivery and reduced vibrations in 2025, producing around 29 horsepower and 44 Nm of torque. It's not a performance monster by today's standards, but that's not the point. The Continental GT is about character, about feel, and about that thumping heartbeat that only a Royal Enfield single can deliver. Fire it up, and you're greeted with that deep, bassy exhaust note that has defined the brand for decades. The fueling is smoother than before, thanks to updated injection mapping, and it feels less jittery at lower speeds compared to older models. But at the same time, Royal Enfield has ensured that the raw mechanical thump hasn't been diluted. The engine still communicates every pulse, every stroke, and every beat straight to the rider. On the performance side, the Continental GT 535 continues to surprise. It's not about top speed numbers. It will comfortably cruise around 110 to 120 km/h, and it can push to about 140 km per hour if you're determined. But the joy comes in how it delivers torque across the rev range. The low and mid-range grunt makes it incredibly engaging in city rides and twisty roads, which is exactly what Café copyright racers were made for. The 5-speed gearbox is precise enough, though still carries a slightly old-school notchiness that riders will either appreciate as character or criticize as a lack of refinement. The clutch has been lightened compared to older models, making stop-and-go traffic less tiring, and highway stretches feel smoother thanks to reduced engine vibrations. Handling is where the Continental GT sets itself apart from other Royal Enfields. With its lower stance, clip-on bars, and rear-set footpegs, you feel like you are in the bike rather than on it. The chassis feels stiffer compared to Royal Enfield's more relaxed motorcycles, and the weight distribution allows for surprisingly agile cornering. You won't mistake it for a modern supersport, but compared to other retro machines, it holds its own confidently. The suspension set with telescopic forks at the front and twin gas-charged shocks at the rear has been tuned for balance, keeping the ride firm but not uncomfortable. Braking is handled by disc brakes at both ends, supported by dual-channel ABS, giving you plenty of confidence in sudden stops. Now when it comes to pricing, Royal Enfield has positioned the 2025 Continental GT 535 as a niche offering. It's not the most affordable bike in their lineup, but it's also nowhere near the premium European retro machines like Triumph's Thruxton or BMW's R9. The idea here is accessibility, and a Continental GT is for riders who want to live the Café copyright racer dream without spending a fortune. Depending on the region, the price generally sits at a point where it's more expensive than the Meteor or the Classic, but still significantly cheaper than any imported retro racer. That balance makes it a tempting option for enthusiasts who want something special without breaking the bank. In conclusion, the 2025 Royal Enfield Continental GT 535 is not a motorcycle for everyone, and that's exactly what makes it special. It's for the purists, the riders who value feel over figures, who want to connect with their motorcycle in a way that modern machines often don't allow. It's about the experience, the sound of the thump, the posture that makes you lean forward into the wind, the raw connection between rider and road. Sure, it may not match modern bikes in outright power, technology, or refinement, but it delivers something else entirely: soul. For those who understand the Café copyright racer culture and crave a motorcycle that feels like a piece of history reborn, the Continental GT 535 is an irresistible choice. That's been our in-depth look at the 2025 Royal Enfield Continental GT 535. If you enjoyed this review and want more detailed breakdowns of bikes from around the world, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Global Bike Buzz, and ring the bell so you don't miss our upcoming reviews. Drop a